Godzilla has a brain about this size.
Yeah, that explains a lot. Okay, now we're really getting started with Godzilla vs King Kong. I mean, the name speaks for itself. This is going to be an odd one. We're getting a giant ape, an atomic lizard, a giant octopus, and a space station. But before we get too carried away, let's talk about the interesting backstory behind this film. Because with a film like Godzilla vs King Kong, you know there's a weird history behind this film. The film's original script was King Kong vs Frankenstein's monster. Obviously this will come as quite a shock to most audiences, but the idea was to have Frankenstein's monster grow to a huge size. However, the writer was desperate for a company to take the script, and eventually TOHO accepted the script, as they were already looking for ideas to bring Godzilla back, but this meant that Frankenstein was out and Godzilla was in. Godzilla vs King Kong was Godzilla's return after 7 years of hibernation, marking the first time Godzilla would appear in colour, and the first time Godzilla would cross over with another franchise. However, this film does change some aspects of the King Kong lore. For example, King Kong is obviously from Skull Island, but for this film they've changed it to Farah Island. I don't know why they did this, but for this review I'm just going to refer to it as Skull Island because the similarities are clear. As well as this, King Kong is significantly larger than he was in the original film, and he is no longer stop motion. This was done for cost benefits and also because King Kong was too small to fight Godzilla originally, making it an unfair fight. Each Godzilla film so far has had its own way of attempting to take on Godzilla. The original, the military used the oxygen destroyer. In the second, the military used ice to freeze Godzilla. And in this third one, the military are using King Kong to fight Godzilla. Okay, now we know the backstory, it's time to start the film. Being a film that represents a mix of both Japanese and Western cultures, it's fitting that this film begins with a shot of the entire Earth. This is followed by a message from the United Nations, truly pushing this feeling of a unified culture. Japan has come a long way from the very reactionary original Godzilla film that sought to represent the horrors of the Western use of atomic bombs. We're definitely in a changed world. People have now forgotten about the devastation brought on by Godzilla.
A giant monster?
He must be putting us on. We must really need publicity.
United Nations reporter Eric Carter describes a crisis in Chile and their need for supplies. He communicates with Chile through the United Nations satellite, though to me that looks like it would fit more in a Thunderbirds movie than a Godzilla one. We are shown impressive berries that have enhanced healing effects. These are the reason that King Kong has grown to such a larger size than we are used to. But the twist is that they are only found on Skull Island. This subplot is quite interesting. It was added into the American edit, and I think it was a worthy addition. As well as this, it's reported that the icebergs are melting in Japan. And considering the last time we saw Godzilla, he was like this, I imagine you can all guess where this is going. I'd like to quickly comment on how strong this introduction is. We are straight away given insight into the state of our kaiju. We are given some delightful acting, and we are given key plot points at a brisk pace. This is welcome as we've all come to see King Kong vs Godzilla, and so we know we want to get straight to that. Mr. Taco hears about the giant monster that was found along with the berries and sends two of his men, Vegeta and Kazuya, to bring back this monster, hoping that this monster can appear on his show and push the ratings. This is very reminiscent of the original King Kong story, and the one that we'll see carry on into Peter Jackson's rendition. So basically it is a retread of the original King Kong film. They need to capture Kong so they can exploit him for their show. It's typical of crossover movies to retread old films, like how Freddy vs Jason is a typical Jason slasher. So this is a welcome plot, and it's fun to see TOHO's take on the classic tale, and with the twist of adding Godzilla into the mix. Following this, we are given time to develop Vegeta and Kazuya's characters, spending time to eat with Fumiko, who is Vegeta's sister and Kazuya's girlfriend. Yeah, that's kind of complicated and it's not worth memorizing. Just realise that these three characters are all linked and I think you'll get on fine. During the meal, Vegeta shows the group his new wire. It's thin like any other wire and it's made of steel, capable of supporting a person's entire weight. And if it was too subtle for you, let me make it clearer.
This is foreshadowing.
On the Stormhawk submarine, the American Navy discover a glowing iceberg. They soon get stuck inside this iceberg and have to send off a warning signal, though it just looks like someone emptied the toilet in the ocean. With high levels of radiation showing, the submarine begins to flood with water. And fire? Yes, Godzilla is loose, and although these shots may not seem the most flattering, it's very exciting to see him break out after 7 years of sleep. We're back to classic Godzilla as the military fire on him, and he pushes through like a force of nature. As the group approach Skull Island, they are greeted by a group of natives. And let me tell you, these natives look a lot more friendly than the last ones we ran into. The natives are so friendly that the group even stopped to have a casual smoke with some of the kids. And our protagonists bring them the gift of music.
I mean, see, switch it on, like this, and you get 'em my matching.
We cut to Eric Carter again as he interviews a doctor who establishes Godzilla's origin, and as he does so, he pulls out a children's dinosaur book. This is a big hint that this film's demographic is a lot younger than the more brutal and dark original Godzilla film. We are also given each kaiju's stats. Whilst Kong is quicker and smarter, Godzilla is tougher and could survive underwater. Oh yeah, and he has atomic breath. We continue our protagonist's journey as they hunt the elusive Kong. Now, one of my favourite parts of the King Kong mythos is actually the creatures of Skull Island. I know the Peter Jackson version set high standards with some amazing creature designs, but don't worry, this film is just as immersive.
It's only a lizard. Throw it down.
That night, as the natives begin praying out and worshipping Kong, their calls do not go unheard as the great monster you've all been waiting for rises from the shadows. That's right, the giant, malevolent, powerful monster that strikes fear into the heart of so many. Odaku, the giant octopus. Okay, so maybe not the best of monsters, but I still kind of love this. I mean, a giant octopus really fits the usual crowd of creatures you'd find on Skull Island, and it's fun to watch too. If you suspend some disbelief, the miniatures here aren't half bad, and seeing an octopus destroy them, that is great fun. So in that respect, these effects are actually pretty decent, and this is actually a really fun time. I mean, oh no. Oh no. Yeah, that blue screen holds up about as well as the shark from Jaws 3. I mean, nothing here works. The tentacles have glaring outlines, the people look like Smurfs, and the stop motion is just... oh, it's just awful. I mean, for God's sake, look here, where the camera moves and the people move with it. That's just terrible. I understand that we've come a long way since this, and we're constantly looking back at old effects and going, wow, I can't believe I ever thought that was good. But can you tell me this would ever have been considered convincing? However, King Kong comes to the rescue. This fight is pretty interesting. The prosthetic octopus isn't that bad, and seeing Kong get sucked and slimed on is gross to watch, but damn entertaining. Kong drives the octopus back into the sea, and we can only hope we see a return from this great villain. And by the look of Skull Island's latest trailer, we might actually see our great friend Odaku make a return. And as Kong drinks the drugged berry juice, he collapses, leading the natives to celebrate. Celebrate a little too much. I mean, they're banging drums, shrieking, dancing. I mean, come on guys, you're gonna wake him up. When the Japanese government banned TOHO from bringing King Kong into Japan, he does not take the news well.
Mr. Taco. Boss.
Happening elsewhere, Godzilla begins to attack a train, and it's reminiscent of Godzilla 2014. It's quite exhilarating seeing the desperation as the people flee. People are fighting to fit into the vans as others are left behind. This sense of panic is really fitting and goes well with the destruction of the miniatures, even if the destruction is a little limited. King Kong begins to awake, which prompts the crew to turn on Mr. Taco, attempting to kill King Kong using the dynamite. It's pretty tense as the crew fight within each other, even if it's also kind of comedic. The crew fall to shooting the dynamite, which is a nice touch and shows their desperation in the situation. However, Kong survives it. This is a clever way of showing the audience that Kong is a lot tougher in this film, clearly ready to take on the almighty Godzilla. Godzilla and King Kong finally meet. However, this is less of a fight and more like the press before a fight, where the two fighters square it off. Here King Kong displays his strength, picking up rocks and making growls at Godzilla, but the king of the monsters will have none of it, firing his atomic breath, which singes Kong and causes Kong to flee. A very welcome change in this film is that the military are creative. An issue with Godzilla Raids Again was that it felt more like repeating the events of the first film. Whilst at first they attempted a generic tank assault, they now start experimenting. The military begin digging a giant hole in the ground and filling it with explosives. They cover the hole in a metal netting and aim to coerce Godzilla into falling into this hole. The aim is to obviously blow him up. As well as this, they actually have a collection of electric pylons to zap and deter Godzilla. Of course, if you've seen the first Godzilla film, you know that doesn't quite make any sense. But oh well. King Kong shows up and he is ready for round one. As he does, he feels free to chew on the electric cables and they power him up with their electric charge. Wait, since when was Kong powered by electricity? If this seems out of character to you, it's because, well, it is. You see, this is more than likely a remnant of when this was King Kong vs. Frankenstein. And I think the idea here was this would be Frankenstein powered by electricity and not King Kong. But they left it in anyway for some reason. Kong kidnaps Fumiko on his way through the city, enacting the original King Kong film. This attracts mass military attention. They decide to place the berries in missiles so that the fumes knock King Kong out cold. Mr. Taco seems the most proud of this idea.
Don't worry, it's all going to work out.
Taco, I hope we're right.
Ha! King Kong can't make a monkey out of us.
You finally made a monkey.
Yes, we finally made a monkey.
Yes, you finally made a monkey out of me.
As Kong starts getting high on those fumes, he begins to collapse. With Kong unconscious, they decide to use him as a weapon against Godzilla. Although, the way they transport him is quite strange. And guess what wire that is holding up Kong? That's right, it's good old Fujita's trusty metal wire. Boy, I'm glad that had a whole scene setting it up. Okay, the scene is set, the storylines have concluded, and the fight is about to begin. It gets off to a rocky start. Kong drops from the balloon and looks pretty ridiculous. But the casual use of miniatures here is gorgeous. They look vivid. There's a great sense of scale, making the kaiju look huge. Just like the Doctor had suggested, Kong is a smarter fighter, hiding and jumping out of places, using guerrilla tactics, if you'll pardon the pun. And the scene where Kong drags Godzilla by the tail is brutal to watch, even if some of this plays out more like a cheap Star Trek episode. They even have their own celebrations, and believe me, they're a good laugh to watch. Oh shit, this is the best bit. Look at that. Oh man, Godzilla ain't eating that shit. Just like the last film, the two team up to destroy a pagoda. It's brilliant to watch, and at first you watch it from a distance, and the pagoda just sat there like at any point those kaiju were just going to come straight for it. The pagoda's destruction is great. It's brilliant seeing all the different layers fall apart, and it's a great choice of building to destroy. I can imagine it cost the people of Japan a lot of money after that kind of destruction. And when it all looks like it's over, and Kong has been defeated, the lightning strikes, giving him power once again. But after all this brilliant fighting, it all has to come to an end eventually. And the ending is kinda weak. Just like the start of Raids Again, the two kaiju fall down the side of the cliff. In a similar ending to Freddy vs. Jason, no true victor is determined. They both submerge underwater, and whilst one looks like the clear winner at first, it's left ambiguous as to who truly won, if anyone. Kong may swim away, as Godzilla is left nowhere to be seen. However, Godzilla will be back 2 years later to take on his greatest threat yet. a giant moth. A big strength for this film is its pacing. Godzilla is constantly active, destroying his way through Japan. We are always cutting back to his destructive path to remind us of his forceful presence, as opposed to the past two films where he'd attack once and then return once again for the climax. This breaks the rule of that established pacing. The human characters are given almost no development, and I'm quickly growing tired of the whole two guys and a girl aspect. I mean, there's even a bit of a love triangle with the brother and the boyfriend competing for Fumiko's love. I know that character depth isn't crucial to a Godzilla film, but if you're going to have characters that are so empty, why have them at all? One thing that crushes me about this film is the score. Akira Ifukube did return for this film after doing the score to the original Gojira. He hadn't done Godzilla raids again, and so it's so exciting to see him back. However, in the American edit, this score is removed. It is replaced by scores from American films like The Creature from the Black Lagoon. It feels like a wasted opportunity, and it really makes me sad that even though the American edit improves on some areas, it ruins areas like this, which means so much to me. Another addition to the American cut was the United Nations scenes, but I find these to be a welcome addition. They added the Somaberry plotline, which I think was really helpful in explaining why King Kong would be so big, and it's brilliant because King Kong is an American monster, so it makes sense that they would give the reason. I also feel that the United Nations scenes add a more worldliness to the film. It's not as heavy-handed as Steve Martin, and I appreciate that as it includes all kinds of cultures. However, I do take issue with the fact that they state in the American cut that Godzilla has been frozen since prehistoric times. This means that the American cut is not canon with the prior two films. Overall, this film is a standout among the Godzilla series. This film perfectly encapsulates both a King Kong and a Godzilla movie. They keep King Kong elements, but they also take into account many Godzilla elements. It has one of the best uses of pacing in a Godzilla film, and it excellently integrates both King Kong and Godzilla's themes into it. I mean, this film is only 1 hour and a half, yet it touches on nuclear warfare, native islands, Japan, America, each kaiju's skill sets, each kaiju's origin, and a satisfying fight scene. Due to this high review, of course I recommend this film. Even with its flaws, it's a must-watch. However, I do have to acknowledge that it has some flaws, and because of that, it gets 7 drunk Kongs out of 10. Okay, and now for my weirdest moment of the week, where I pick what I thought was the most comedic or strangest moment in this film. And with such a weird film, it's actually quite hard to pick one. I mean, there have been so many moments that were just so strange that I didn't really know what to do. But after thinking about it quite harshly, I've definitely decided on what I think is the weirdest moment of this film. And here it is. Thank you all for watching, thank you for all the support, and I hope I see you all again in my next Godzilla review.
No more! I'm sick of Godzilla!